The reality of my birth, not pretty. No glamour pages of introduction, yet Hell released its own headline and it read, "Extra, extra, read all about it. Another abandoned black baby becomes a drug statistic." But I was always born to be a misfit. My existence misguided me. My birth misaligned me. My childhood misunderstood me. My education misinstructed me. My adolescence informed me. My mentors mishandled me. And religion misplaced me. My worth misinterpreted me. But I was always born to be a misfit.
I found out I was pregnant with Jason because sorry, I had got sick and I wasn't feeling well. And I said, it's so much to the point where I had to go to the hospital. That's how bad I was feeling. And I found out I was pregnant. And I immediately was like, I can't be pregnant right now. You know, in the middle of basically not really having a place to stay, but having a place to stay, but more so because me and his dad was not together. And also because of the state that I was in at that time, I just felt like it was just bad. And I felt like I wasn't worthy in a sense of, you know, I don't even have it all together. You know, why do you deem me so fit to have another baby? Because, you know, people say if you do the deed and that's what happens. But God, I believe God has the final say in who he allows to conceive, carry, and birth his children into this world. And I just didn't understand at that moment and at that time, you know, it was just bad timing. It was just bad timing. I wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't where I needed to be. I already had 3 other children, and Cree was a baby because her and Jason are 10 months apart. And although Cree's pregnancy was good for me, I think I did suffer from postpartum depression after having Cree because of just looking back and realizing how I was acting and how I was handling certain situations and how most of the time it was like I was a functioning depressed woman walking.
Nobody ever said anything or knew what to say?
No, they would just always tell me I'm being moody or I'm being sensitive or emotional. But I think a lot of my sensitivity and a lot of my emotions came from the fact that I did not want to raise children in a single parent household. I wanted to raise children in a 2-parent household. And everything that I thought and everything that I imagined my life to be, it was not unfolding that way. I think I was mad at myself for a lot of things. I was mad at myself for a lot of situations and circumstances where I could have changed the alternate and I didn't, and where I should have listened, this particular time and that particular time, and I didn't. And, people try to say I don't take accountability. I do take accountability, and that's why it be so heavy on me. Because I'm always looking at me. And I feel like during that time, I was so mad at myself. I was mad. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. I was in fear. And I wasn't stable. Mentally, physically, spiritually, or emotionally, I wasn't stable.
So do you feel like from moving to the city up until this point that things drastically shifted? Or was it a slow shift?
It was a slow shift.
Yeah.
It was a slow shift. It was a slow shift. Things started changing once I did not tell with my felony case. I did not snitch, and I just took the charge and I did the time, and that's when things started changing for me, because now I'm in a position where I can't just go get a place to stay, in my name. It doesn't work that way no more. I'm going to be denied because I have a background now, a felony background. So my issue with finding a place to stay wasn't because of work or money. It was simply because of my background. So that's when things started drastically changing for me. And because of that, I went through like almost a four-year delayed detour is what I call it, of life, because of that one single choice and decision. And so I called my mom and I told her that I was ready to come home. And she booked me up. She booked me a Greyhound bus ticket, and I did not get on. I did not get on because it was like a hold, like a stronghold, and because I knew that once I got on that bus or plane and I left that city, any type of relationship or family that I've tried to create would be dismantled. Null and void, non-existent. And that was a huge fear for me.
What do you mean dismantle? Why?
It wouldn't exist. He wasn't going to do a long distance relationship. On top of the fact, he already had extracurricular activities going. That's how I put that.
So did you stay
He was
a little
being
longer?
the man.
Yeah.
Um, excuse me. I probably stayed maybe a week longer. I came back to Dallas for work. Jason's pregnancy was rough. I was constantly being talked to about abortion. And then the state I was in, being homeless, homeless again, I had to keep reiterating it because people think homeless like sleeping on outside on the ground, like homeless in the sense that I did not have a place in my name. But yeah, during that pregnancy, I was like either staying with my mom, staying with my brother, staying at a hotel. That pregnancy was rough. Mentally, it was rough. Physically, it was rough. Spiritually, it was rough. I remember one day crying to my knees, begging that man to stay with me. I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. So that whole pregnancy was a lot. And then it just transitioned after the pregnancy.
How'd you feel after you had them?
I don't even know if I was feeling. I don't know if I was coming or going. I cried for days on end. I didn't feel like I was myself.
It's like she would just be so spaced out. I'm like, Michelle, huh? Like she was so like spaced out, and I knew it was a lot on her mind. I told her, I said, Michelle, I can clearly see that this is different this time around. I don't know all the details of what happened, but I will take my nephew. I will help you. I'll take care of him until you can get things sorted out.
So when you say things were different, what was she
like? Her emotional state. Like, I hadn't seen her like that since she was 16 and pregnant with Anaya.
Oh, so there's a parallel between the two pregnancies.
Like the spaciness, and like just always in her head, deep in thought, like.
It's crazy. All my other kids I held in the hospital. Jason, not so much. Mainly, she would just pick Jason up and just hold him from me. So like the times when I had him, that's when I would breastfeed him. And because I've had other children, I know that I'm not gonna just, hold this child all day, because I don't want him spoiled like that. I want to be able to sleep through the night,
Just for our records, let's back up and explain how her came into the picture this time.
She came into the picture this time because I needed somebody at the hospital with me. Simple, point blank, period.
And how did that go?
Well, I had seen her like a couple weeks prior, and I was expressing to her everything that I had dealt with since I had left DFW and moved to the city, and and how I was now in my fourth or fifth pregnancy, and just the emotions that I was dealing with in that pregnancy, and the emotions I was dealing with when it came down to my children's father, and how I felt like I didn't have anybody and I didn't have the same emotional support or just support period that I had with my other children. And she said that she would be there for me, and she said for me to call her if I ever need her, and she prayed for me, and that was it. So the day that I go into labor, my mom could not come with me to the hospital because my kids were at the house. So I did not want to have a child by myself because I did that with Cree. And that wasn't a good feeling. And so I didn't want to experience that again. So I called her. And she came. She definitely came. With hidden motives. But she came. And that's how I was. I called her and I said, I am in labor and I have to go to the hospital and I do not want to have my baby by myself. Was my exact words to her. She said she jumped up. She asked me what hospital I was going to. The paramedic told her what hospital I was going to, and she was at the hospital before we arrived.
And she was there by herself.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you stay in the hospital?
I stayed in the hospital 3 days.
So when it came time to
3 or 4 days. I came in May 21st. I left May 24th.
When it came time to exit or leave the hospital, what was the plan? Or your plan?
It really wasn't a plan. She just was like, well, you can come over to the house, and chill for a little bit. And so when I left the hospital after meeting her husband for the first time, I went to their house for a little bit, probably for like a week or two. And then I went back to my mom's. Yeah.
So, those that are tuning in are wondering, did you guys have a solid friendship, or was it an off and on friendship?
I think it was a solid friendship on my side. I don't think it was a solid friendship on her side. Because for it to be solid means you do not change the dynamics of the friendship regardless of who's around, who's not around. You're solid and stiff in that friendship. But when it came to friendship with her, that wasn't the case. You're a different person with different people. Yeah. And I really started seeing that when she befriended Tamar Braxton. Yeah.
So, the day you left home, you went back to her place.
The day I left the hospital.
You went back to her place.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that atmosphere like when you left? Or, I guess what I'm saying is I'm sure she was inviting.
Yeah, of course, you're going to do everything you have to do to get what your ultimate goal is, right? I feel like you brought me to the house to put in my mind an image, right? To start her whole process.
And just so the viewers can be clear, you didn't go home because things were what? How was that situation? Why did you choose that versus home?
Really
Wasn't about anger or being mad or anything like that.
It wasn't about that. My kids, when I left the hospital, my mom brought my kids over to where I was, and the family came down to see the baby, all of that. So it wasn't, during that time, it wasn't It wasn't because of anything. She invited me. She said that I should come. It's okay, you know. Yeah, so it was, I mean, now when I look back on it, I see the whole setup from, you know, beginning to end, but it was just really her just throwing, yeah, it's okay, it's cool, you know. You need to be around peace, you know.
That was what she said.
Mm-hmm.
So she knew about all your background,
Yeah.
everything you had come to, because you had confided.
Because I had confided in her.
And you were friends.
In March.
Right.
That previous March or April.
And for the record, how long have you known her in total?
Over almost 20 years.
Okay.
I'm 32. Yeah.
Okay.
Over 20 years.
So this was a friend supposedly helping another friend.
That's how
It came off.
That's how it was.
Now, during that time you were there in the beginning, do you know if your mom ever reached out trying to get a hold of you to see what was going on?
I think my mom did try to intervene, but because our relationship was so strained, it was nothing that my mom could say to me that I would listen.
Do you think that her knew that?
Yeah. I think yeah, of course. Of course. That's why she would say things to me like, you know, don't tell anybody, this is your decision, this is all, you know, nobody needs to know, nobody should be in your business. She knew that my mother and I at that time did not have the best of relationship. She knew that I did not trust my mom at that time. She knew that I didn't have that support. So she knew that I wouldn't listen to my mom. And my mom did try. I'm gonna always be honest. My mom used to tell me, you know, a lot, and I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it. I thought my mom was just being, you know, her. I mean, you have to understand the history to understand that. And so I just could see, and then I'm looking, and then it's like, you know, how do you take advice from somebody, you know, who you've had conflict with before and who has done you wrong in the same sense or in the same way? It's hard to listen to that advice.
So what did she tell you as it related to this situation?
My mom?
Yeah.
She used to tell me Court was not my friend. She used to tell me I need to get my babies away from her. My mom was on the money.
And why do you think you couldn't see it besides the relationship between you and your mom? What was it that you believed or wanted to believe in what her was saying to you?
The reason why it was hard for me to listen to her when it came to that because of how she did me when it came to my daughter. That's why. Of how she did me when it came to my oldest child. I needed you to help me until I got stable, and instead of doing that, you decided that you were gonna take and hide my child. To the point I had to come back, find her, all of that. So it was very hard and very difficult for me in those moments and at that time to listen to my mother. I wish I would have listened. I wish that I would have put how I felt about my mom to the back and listened to what her eyes were seeing, because people think once you're 18, you're no longer supposed to be covered. I'm supposed to be your covering to the day I leave this earth. And although my mom has her wrongs and her wrongs doing, I know that she hear God clearly when it comes to her children. And I should have listened.
But you wanted to believe this friend?
I just was so angry. I was so angry with my mom. I was so hurt by my mom. I was so, my mom, my sister, I was just really, really, really angry. And I was just really, really hurt. And I didn't think that they had my best interest at heart because of situations and circumstances that had happened, that had transpired. And so I wasn't listening to anything they said. So she definitely knew that she had my ear.
How did you feel around you and Jason? What was the atmosphere like around her family, her husband?
Well, her family never came to the house. His family did. Her husband's family did. And I love them. Her husband's parents, mom and pops, I love them dearly. And it's crazy because Mama Bernice used to try to give me little signals without telling me, but trying to let me know. And I didn't, at the time, I wasn't reading it. I know now when I go back and I think about certain situations, and when I listen to the conversation now that I'm not in the conversation, I hear it and I understand it. So I just wish she would have just flat out, sometimes.
What was one of the signals she tried to
I remember I came to her and I asked her and I said, Mama, you have 4 kids. I said, how do you feel about women with multiple kids and then adoption? Like giving a child up for adoption? Because now this time, Cora had been sending me videos about adoption and open adoption and how it's not a bad thing and how you're not going to be shut. Like it was crazy. Like almost every day she was sending me that. So now when you do that, now it leaves the mind to wonder, right? So now you have questions. So I went to her and I asked her, I said, do you really think that God is telling Cora to tell me, that my son is not for me? And she said, baby, God gave you those kids. And that's all I'm going to say. But I didn't know how to take that. Okay, yes, I know God gave me the kids, but that's not answer, right? That's essentially not answering the question. But it is answering the question. Basically, she was saying no.
So you said every day she was giving you some type of...
Every day. Every day. That first 3-4 months after I had Jason, every single day she was sending me something about adoption. Videos. What's the little TED Talks?
So you were being groomed?
Yes.
And you didn't really
didn't realize it at the time. I was definitely being groomed.
So how did this whole... at some point, I'm sure you're trying to find your mental and emotional balance. Did you ever mention to her that you needed any type of counseling or that you felt like something wasn't right? And then what was her response?
I told her, I said, something is not right with me. Something is wrong with me and I need some help. I need some counseling. I need some therapy. Like, I'm struggling emotionally. I'm struggling mentally. And I'm just sad all the time. And that's how that started. And then she was like, well, you know, I can counsel you because I'm in ministry school and I'm at the church, and you know, I can legally do this, and we'll just set you up with the MacBook, and I ask you a series of 100 questions, and just let you answer them. But prior to those recordings, she was, you know, beating in my head that Jason was not for me, that I did not have my son for me.
Okay, so you're telling her, before that, I just want to reiterate for those listening. So you're telling her, listen, something's going on. I'm not myself, but at the same time, she was beating in your head that your son wasn't for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To the point where she damn near made me believe it.
Now I can understand that. So you said that her was a counselor, or she was in training as a counselor? Or
no, neither or. She was in ministry school.
And she was trying to counsel you while she was in ministry school?
No, she was in ministry school, which means it gave her the right to be able to counsel.
Has she finished yet?
No.
Okay.
Back then I didn't know though.
So what did this counseling start out to? Because you're not mentally there, but something about 100 questions?
Yeah, she would ask me like a series. I would have to come over there, and I could only record on her MacBook. Like I couldn't like record on my phone and stuff like that, and I had to come over there to her and do the recordings, and then after the recording she would come and sit and talk to me about my emotions and my feelings.
Did she explain why you had to record on her personal Mac?
No.
Did she ever give you a copy?
No.
What did she do with the recordings?
She uploaded them on Facebook.
She uploaded them to Facebook, any place else that was connected to Facebook, Periscope, or anything like that?
I don't know. She had a Periscope at the time, but and it's crazy because she made it a part of her Faith in It series.
Made a part of her what?
Faith in It series. And
so your story was her faith?
I don't know. I'm just telling you that she made those recordings and put them up on Facebook as a part of a new Faith in It series that she was starting. Then turned around, and because Monet was so jealous of me or anything that Cora was doing to help, quote unquote, somebody else, Monet wanted to do videos like that as well. So she dropped me, and she's supposed to be counting. It's supposed to be my therapy situation, and then started doing Monet's and uploaded those videos, mine and Monet's, as a part of her Faith in It series.
Were you getting better, do you feel?
I don't feel like I was getting better. I feel like I was getting more convoluted. I was getting more sucked in and pulled in and blinded. And I think she wanted to keep me as down and blinded until she got what she was trying to do. Because when she did, I was just nobody to them. Nobody. She got me a Sorry board game for Christmas.
Wait a minute. Say that again. She got you a what?
Sorry.
The game Sorry?
Board game for
that was
Christmas.
What she gave you for Christmas?
Yes. While everybody else got like MacBooks, I think she bought her godson Trey a car, BMW, Apple Watches, I think, was out at that time. Maybe not, but she definitely gave everybody else, and I mean everybody else, elaborate gifts, and gave me a sorry board game.
Wow, that wasn't prophetic. That's interesting. Okay, so you remember the day?
She just said that her godmom was coming out. Never met this lady, never knew this lady, Galena White. Never met this lady, never knew this lady. And she said that she was coming down to visit. So I'm like, okay, well, we ended up going to church that day. And we leave church. You know, I think they were already at the house before I made it to the house. Because I'd be talking. So after church, I was talking. So they had left me. And when I finally pulled up to Cora's house, because it was a service that, you know, one of those services that the spirit be so heavy, as old folks say. And so it was one of those services. So I get to the house. I'm at the house and she's there. And she begins to tell me a little bit of who she was, and then that's when they start the whole thing.
Did she tell you why she was even there in the first place?
No.
So how did she go into?
I didn't know why they was praying over me the way that they was praying over me. I didn't know why. I felt like they thought I had a demon in me.
So basically, you came out of a high-end spiritual atmosphere of service. You walk into the home. This person introduces herself to you, and then they go into this whole prayer.
Seance thing.
Okay.
Start lighting candles.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What color was it?
And when I walked in, they're like, the women are walking in a circle, speaking in tongues, praying. It's like as soon as I walked through the door.
So this.
They had the furniture pulled back. Yeah.
So what did they say? They was doing something.
The other women wasn't saying nothing.
Mm-hmm.
They was just praying.
So she had a whole team with her.
Well, the other women were Cora's friends.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And
Cora had a lot of people brainwashed.
And what? How did this transpire? I mean, like, what happened? She prophesied, as we would say.
Yeah, after she did all that praying, laying me down.
Do you remember anything she said?
I remember what she said to the team when I stood up. She was like, I just want you to know that I saw your baby in a dream, and I saw her husband and Jesus sitting on the throne, and I saw your baby sitting on the lap, and he was just laughing, and he was just happy. And she said, you had your child for her and him.
And what did you say or think or?
I was just shocked, you know. Because everything they did was they did it in the name of God. God said this.
And so we can help our viewers listening. The reason we showed your background, that you were a PK's kid and that you were used to prophets because you got a prophetic word yourself. So you're used to this type of language, correct? So now it's coming.
I just didn't know at that time how to discern a false prophet from a real prophet.
Exactly.
You know, I didn't know that at that time. Even growing up, I've heard of false prophets before, but I didn't know how to discern a false prophet from a real prophet. And it kept reiterating that God is saying this.
Who was saying that?
Cora, I'm sorry.
Them?
But them, all of them. Everybody except for Brandon.
What was Brandon doing, out of curiosity?
I think he was just going with the flow, honestly. I think he's truly a man that whatever she wanted, he was okay with it. So almost all of the conversations he wasn't privy to, like, while they were happening. So I know that she went back and said something totally different. Like, you didn't tell him that I was telling you no. You didn't tell him that you told me that you would take my baby. Well, he was there, but, so.
So after they got done with this prophetic outburst, they went to what you would call exorcism or something?
Yeah, after they was speaking in tongues. Yeah, they laid me on the ground. She was speaking in tongues over my body, like going like this. And just, holy man. She took my promise ring off Agar when I had Jason. And
Did she say why she was doing that?
no,
You just took it. Who'd she give it to?
I don't know. I was scared out of my mind. I was scared.
So how did it end? And then how did you feel afterwards? What happened?
I felt scared afterwards. I felt like, what have I gotten myself into? And I can take accountability for being in a state of mind where I could not be cognizant enough and aware enough. But I'm not going to take responsibility for being taken advantage of and being manipulated. That's what I'm not going to take responsibility for. Because people be like, all I hear is Michelle pointing fingers. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just giving real facts. It's not much for me to take responsibility for. But for my part, I will take responsibility for not being, what do you want me to say, in the right stable mind? What am I breaking down and,
I mean, yeah, because it sounds like to me, first of all, if somebody is coming down or a visitor, these were plans that were made.
These were plans that were made prior.
And
everything was premeditated.
Right, and then coming
I feel
out the
like
church.
She walked her through it.
Yeah.
Gaylena walked her through the whole process of
This is
how
witchcraft.
to do it. Mm-hmm.
Witchcraft is trying to put somebody else's will onto someone else.
They
That's
definitely
witchcraft.
gaslighted the whole situation.
So, what was it like after, like the next day, when you're dealing with the fear, getting scared? How does this transaction happen with Jason? What begins to happen?
After that, the grip became tighter with her. She, would make it seem like he couldn't be going back and forth, that he needed to be stable in that her place. You see, look around. Stability. Because she lived in a nicer neighborhood and a more up-to-date home. And she knew, because of prior conversations, of how I felt about how I wanted to raise my children.
And she just had the word of the Lord ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So everything was supposed to now get pushed into forward motion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything became tighter. Now she became even more pushy. But I still wasn't budging. Like, even in the moments where I believed her, it would be for that moment, because I come back and I say, nah, this is not what I want to do. And till she finally was like, if you don't give me him, I'm going to take him from you.
That's what she told you?
That's what she told me.
And how did she propose to do that?
I don't know how she was going to do it, but it scared the living daylights out of me. It definitely did that.
So what you tell her?
I didn't say anything. Once she let me up off the wall, because she pushed me on the wall. When she left me off the wall.
So she assaulted you, because assault and battery is to physically put your hands on someone.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, you didn't know that you were supposed to call the cops because you were trapped in a house.
Yeah.
In law, we would say that you were basically false imprisonment, to be bound to an area in the state of Texas.
She took me upstairs, brought me into the office, locked the office door. And I'm thinking we're going up there to smoke.
Is that something y'all did often?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you didn't think it was a big
honest
deal.
about it all.
Right. Right. No. And we're not here to bash anyone.
Everybody
but we're
that
just,
came to her house, and probably even still now,
turned up.
smoked marijuana. Turned up.
So you didn't think.
Liquor.
So you didn't think anything was wrong with this because, like you said, you thought y'all was just going to go and turn
And she
up.
invited me over because she was cooking. And then we always go upstairs to her husband's office to turn up. So she was like, come on, let's go upstairs. So I didn't think nothing of it. She got up there and she locked the door. I thought that was strange. But again, I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then she, basically pushed me on the wall and was like, if you don't give him to me, I'm going to take him from you. And now you got to understand, like, the lights was low, and she was talking in that demonic voice, and she looked really, really evil. And then you have to also understand my mindset. I'm not myself. I'm not healthy mentally. I'm not healthy physically. I don't have enough strength in me to even fight or to even understand in this moment what's going on. So I was just scared. I was scared.
Did she laugh it off afterwards, or y'all just turned it up, kept turning it up?
I ended up leaving.
So you took Jason with you?
That night I did.
Okay. And how did she respond after that?
Probably like a day or two later, she called apologizing, saying that that's not how she meant it, that she just want him to grow up in a safe and wholesome environment, in a stable environment, and she can provide that for him while I try to get on my feet.
So what is this document that everybody was talking about that you signed? Do you remember signing something?
Yeah, but I didn't know that I was signing it.
Tell us about
And she told me that she needed me to sign a paper that says that Jason can fly with her. That's what she told me, so that she'll be able to fly with him. And, sometimes she took him to the doctor for me, like when I had to work. So she said it was also for that. But come to find out, it wasn't. It was a legal guardianship paper. And it's crazy because this is the paper, right? There was another paper on top of it, like blank. And then just the signature part. So I did raise the paper up, but legal guardian wasn't up there. That wasn't up there. It was just, that. And I was like, oh, okay. Put it back down, and I just signed it. I think I was rushing, trying to get to work, and we met up somewhere. And so I trusted her. I didn't think nothing of it. And then again, I'm not moving in. I'm a high-functioning postpartum depressed woman at this time. So I'm moving, I'm up, I'm doing things, but my mind is so far gone. So I'm, both times, both situations, that's how that happened. And that first paper, Jason was born in May. The first document she had me sign was in July.
Wow.
The second document she had me sign was in September.
So when did you realize that when the damage was totally, fully done and completed?
When I moved in and I was pregnant with Liam. January 2016.
What did she do herself?
It wasn't what she did. It was everything that I was finding.
What do you mean?
Like the notebooks, the receipts, the emails, the notations of every time that I wouldn't come, but never any notations that every time that I would come to get my son or to spend time with him. Because like I said, she would keep him while I worked. And who keeps a receipt for everything you buy, child?
So was it like a paper trail?
Paper trail. She was definitely creating a paper trail. And I think she did that just in case I woke up like I am right now and realize what you did to me and decide that this ain't, this not it or whatever. But she was definitely doing a paper trail. And I also think she was doing a paper trail to justify the things that she was saying and the things that she was doing. Also, because if it ever got ugly, her parents would have to be called into the situation. So if you call them into the situation, she needs to look like all of her ducks are in a row, right? She has masterminded the art of manipulation. So that's what it was. And while living there, I was so scared because I didn't know what to do now that I'm finding out all of this information. And because I knew she knew, my secrets. I knew that she knew things that had happened to me and happened in my past and my family's history and me and my mom's history, so I knew she knew those things. And that she would use those things over my head. I felt like I didn't have a fight. I felt like I was in a lose-lose situation. So what do I do? And so in the moment, in that time, I reached out to two of her friends that became my friends that I felt like was seeing things that I saw. And T definitely did. I'm so grateful for T in those moments. T spent a lot of, and I'm saying T because I don't want to say her whole name. T spent a lot of time crying with me and praying with me when I was living in that house. And I was discovering all those things. And I was going through the motions of, what do I do? And I found the strength to leave. I didn't know at the time that I could take my child. So I decided to leave that June and then start coming up or start researching or start, having a plan to reverse what had happened. And September 2016 rolls around, and when I got Jason for my visit, not for my visit, but just to get him, I had been thinking that whole weekend I should just keep him. But then I was like, well, I can't just keep him because I signed up my rights. If I signed up my rights, technically, if I keep him, then what are you going to do if I can't? Not knowing that was just a piece of paper at that moment, right? Because it's not in effect until a judge declares it.
But you didn't know that.
But I didn't know. But I wish I would have told my mom because of what my mom did. That day when she came back trying to get Jason, and my mom just would not open the door. she was not sending her grandson out there.
Mm-hmm.
And she was telling me, even in that moment, I don't care what she say. If she called the laws, they would have been here by now. There's nothing she can do. That's your child. You know, she told me. But see, my mom, my family didn't know that I had signed my rights.
They've been manipulated. So, and just because I know people listening and say, well, she did. See, she's saying she admitted she signed it over. But the truth of the matter was...
I was forced.
Exactly.
And I was manipulated.
Exactly.
And I was put under duress. And I was coerced into signing my rights. Or I was put in a position where you frightened me. You scared me into signing my rights over. The day that we was going to sign my rights, I didn't even know that I was going to sign my rights over. I didn't even know where I was going. And then when we would get there and then I realized what's going on, I'm overcome in emotion. I think Justin asked me, Michelle, this look like something you don't want to do. It's not something that I want to do. She gets up from her chair. She walks over there to me. It was kind of, you know, almost like this, maybe a nicer table, you know. And I'm sitting on this side. She's sitting on this side. The notary people are sitting on this side. And Faith Johnson is sitting right there. She gets up, sitting where you were sitting, identical, sitting where you were sitting. She gets up and she walks around. And she puts her hand on my back like a firm, like a push almost. And tells me, you will do this. You shall do this and you will do this.
And what judge was this?
Faith Johnson.
Do they know? Are they friend of the family or something?
Yeah, she's a friend of the family. She's on the board, the members board at the church. Yeah.
So she knows the family.
Very well.
So that's where the paperwork came from, possibly?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're having a moment of doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And you express this doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And she comes around and basically says, no, you're going to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So this was manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Leaving was tumultuous in itself. Leaving, they had begun to treat me like a piece of shit, literally. And then began to manipulate other people to treat me like a piece of shit. And so I started fighting then. I didn't just start fighting now. I started fighting then. And I've been fighting ever since.
That's when it realized everything that really
That's
happened.
when it, I think that's when it finally fully came together. I think over the course of those 2 years, I picked up on some things, you know, but didn't want to believe it. But I think that's when I heard clearly and I understood fully. And it was just like a I don't know what they say when the light bulb come on. I don't know. It's like I realized that I had been in a dark place. And I don't even want to say the dark place started with Jason's pregnancy. I think that dark place started after I took that charge. I realized that I had been in a very, very dark place. And while I was in that dark place, a lot of things happened and transpired that shouldn't have happened and transpired. And now that I'm not in that place, I have to make a lot of wrongs right. And I started that journey.
That you would be in this position against a church that you grew up in?
Absolutely not.
And loved?
Absolutely
The
not.
sermons you loved?
Absolutely not.
Yeah. How does it make you
Absolutely
feel
not.
to look back and say, man, all this happened?
It's hurtful. I'm still hurt now. I won't go to church to this day because of that. Because of because of it. I would not step foot into anybody's church to this day because of that. And you know, it's hard because, like, I know, like, God is calling me. It's trying to pull me closer to Him. And I'm working on it. I really am. It's just, it's so much hurt there. And I'm not fully over it. And I don't think I will ever be over it until I have my son. And I think I masked that hurt with anger. I'm angry with them. I'm upset with them. I am disappointed with their whole family and with the church as a whole. Because a lot of people knew. A lot of people knew. A lot of people knew when it was happening. A lot of people knew when it was going on. And people, it's like they praise and worship this church, and that the bishop of that church and their family like idols. And that's what bothers me. That you cannot see past that to acknowledge the wrongdoing. And I'm not one of them. So spectrum of this because of just legal reasons, but the case being unsealed is very crucial to overturning the judgment of my son being where he is. And if the case is unsealed, that means that things weren't done right, which speaks volumes to everything that I've been saying, everything that I am saying, and what actually transpired and happened from not just, not just her, but also her lawyers, the judge. It speaks volumes. So, and then, I am going against a power and money machine. And the case is not an easy case. It's not a quick case. It's not an overnight case. And for me to reach the goal that I'm trying to reach and go back into the courts and fight, I need support, and I need financial support to do so. I am a mom of 5 children, 4 living in a home, a single mother. And so lawyers can be very expensive, and especially with this case. And I just want to make sure that this time around is not like the last time around. And I'm sorry. It's so hard to ask for help. That a YouTuber by the name of Tiny Reviews was raising money on my behalf. If you have donated to him for me, given him money to him for me, I have not received any of it. Not a dime. Not a single dime. And I apologize to those who have donated and given money through him, but I did not receive it. I didn't even know he was doing it. And so this is why I'm still saying that I still need the donations to continue to pay for the lawyers and the legal team and the management team that I will need to fight this case out again in court. And that's what it is. If it's not from my GoFundMe, then I would not suggest giving your money and donating your money. If you're not doing it directly through GoFundMe, you can also cash out Loving the First. But if it's not going directly to those two sources, then I would not recommend you doing it. I also went on GoFundMe and saw that somebody else started a GoFundMe for me. But I think somebody had only donated like $10. But it's only one, and I'll pin it in the comments. But I would really appreciate the support. My children would really appreciate the support. My family would really appreciate the support. It is so much needed as we are all fighting for Jason. The one thing that I do love about family is that even if we have our issues in the time of adversity, we stand together. And my mama taught me that. And I just wanted to tell the people thank you for, taking time out to listen to me, to help me, to donate, to be the ears that I hadn't had for so long. And it really means the world.
Thus, I rewrite the headlines that hell introduced, because I am not a statistic, but I am the product of heaven's misfit generation, called to confound the wise. I am proud to be called eternity's misfit.